All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. My name is Mitchell Jacob. I'm the Democratic nominee for Oklahoma's House District 20. And tonight I'm going live for my October virtual town hall. This will be my final town hall, I guess, before the 2024 general election, which this year is on November 5th. I hope that everyone has taken the time to register to vote, ensure that you're still registered to vote, and is creating a voting plan. So, my friends, it is currently 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, and I'm going to go ahead and get started at about 6:35. So, what I'd like to challenge each and every one of you to do is please invite your friends, invite your family, anyone who lives here in House District 20. Give them a call, shoot them a text, share this live event so that everyone who's going to be casting their vote here in House District 20 on November 5th can hear this and hear from one of the candidates who will be on their ballot. I see quite a few people are starting to join us, so thanks so much for being here tonight. As I've said, I'm going to go ahead and get started at about 6:35. So I encourage you to take this time, invite your friends, invite your family, invite everyone who is a voter here in House District 20 to join us tonight. We'll be talking about a variety of topics from public education to corporal punishment in public schools, a topic I didn't realize we'd have to talk about here in 2024, my plans for improving small business infrastructure developments in the area, uh, some issues for veterans, and also I had a question that was submitted about Oklahoma's choices regarding the feeding of children during the summer and whether or not we should be accepting our tax dollars back from the federal government. So I'll get started here in a couple of minutes while I wait for you to invite your friends and family and anyone who lives here in House District 20. I'm just going to introduce myself to you really quickly for those who have never had a chance to join me for one of these or who are just learning about the campaign right now. So my name is Mitchell Jacob. I am a fourth generation Oklahoman. My wife and I were blessed with 5 kids. Somehow, some way, they're all 5 boys. I still don't know statistically how that worked out. But we're so blessed to have them, and they go to public school. And that is ultimately the reason I chose to run. Is I got tired of complaining about Oklahoma's public schools around the kitchen table, and my wife and I put our heads together, and like any sane Oklahoman, I simply decided to run for office and try to fight for a better education for my kids as well as yours. And I'm so glad that you're joining me this evening. Like I've said, I'm going to get started here at 6:35 p.m. So if you know anyone, friends, family, colleagues, coworkers, whomever it may be, who lives here in Oklahoma's House District 20, please give them a call, shoot a text, share this event. Let's bring more people here. And we're going to talk this evening about public schools, about my incentives for small business, and how I think that we can line main streets across Oklahoma with more businesses and generate more tax revenue for these communities. I'm going to talk about critical water shortages that we're currently experiencing here in House District 20. And then I received a couple of responses for things that people want me to talk about tonight. So I'll briefly discuss things like veterans issues, the funding of sorry, they're not called voucher programs. That's the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act. But EBT programs during the summer that the governor decided not to take that $60 million. And I see there's one about Bibles. So that one I can answer really quickly right off the bat. I've posted about this many, many times. The Oklahoma Constitution says in 2 places, and the United States Constitution says right there in the First Amendment that we will not use government, in this case public schools, to endorse a specific religion. And that I personally believe that the state superintendents of education, Ryan Walters, mandate that they teach from Bibles in public schools, that is against the Constitution, and I cannot support that. Yes, exactly. Separation of church and state. So I'm going to get started in one more minute with a couple of topics with an introduction of myself and some issues that I believe in strongly. So please share this event. Reach out to anyone you might know here in House District 20. And this is going to be my final virtual hall between now and the November 5th election. I'll probably go live a couple of times just to talk about a few individual topics, but this will be my last scheduled town hall between now and the general election. All right. So thank you everyone so much for joining. Quick agenda for this evening and what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to get started with a quick introduction of myself, background, why I believe that I'm even remotely qualified to be running for office, so that you can hopefully make a choice from there. We're going to talk about the November 5th date briefly. Just make sure that you're aware of when and where to vote. And then I'll go into a few issues that I've taken the time, whether it be questions submitted or things that I feel strongly about, and then I'll be closing out from there. These usually take somewhere between an hour or an hour and 15 minutes. So I'm so incredibly thankful that you're here with me tonight. So for those who have never had the chance to meet me, my name is Mitchell Jacob. I am the Democratic nominee for Oklahoma's House District 20. I live in Newcastle, Oklahoma, and my wife and I, we have 5 kids. Somehow, some way, my friends, all 5 of those kids are boys. And we just live in an incredibly blessed household. Before I get into why I chose to run, which is my kids, just a little bit about me. So I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm a 4th generation Oklahoman. I absolutely love this state. I am one of 9 children, and I know, like many of you, what it means to grow up with a little bit of a struggle, wondering where some meals might come from, whether or not the rent's going to be paid, wondering if a car will be repossessed when I was a much younger adult, things like that. And I've worked really hard to get to where we are here in life. And like many people, I actually started most of my career in the restaurant industry. I was a busboy, a dishwasher, things like that. From there, I became a mortgage loan originator, then a banker, and then a licensed stockbroker. I was a Series 763 registered representative. At that point, I woke up one day and realized that if I was going to make good on a promise to serve my country, I was 25 years old, then I knew that it was time. And so I quit all of that and I enlisted as a private in the US Army, and I served for 5.5 years. As a 35 Papa cryptologic linguist, I had a chance to deploy to southern Syria in support of Operation Inherent Resolve. In 2022, when I transitioned off of active duty service, OU Law in Norman, Oklahoma made the mistake of admitting me into their law program, and I'll be graduating with my 4th degree, my Juris Doctor, my law degree, in May of 2025. I believe that some of these experiences lead themselves to helping with being a representative here in the state of Oklahoma, representing this district, and helping set policy and legislative agendas for the state. As for why I ran, I just got tired of sitting around the kitchen table with my wife complaining about the state of public education in Oklahoma. Oklahoma is ranked 49th out of 50 in public education in the United States, and we can do so much better. When I graduated from high school in 2010, Oklahoma was ranked approximately 17th in the nation, and we have had a drastic fall in rankings in the last 14 years. And we can do so much better. We can bring those back up. We can reinvest in our public schools, and we can boost public education right here in the state of Oklahoma. There's a secondary reason I chose to run, and I think it's important to address it. So I believe in democracy. I love this democracy that we live in. And another thing that I complained about with my wife is that because I'm a registered Democrat here in House District 20, there has not been a candidate who ran in the past 8 years. This has not been a contested election, which means that it's been decided in a Republican primary time and cycle again. And I realized one day that if I just needed a candidate, someone to vote for, then I could solve that problem. And so, for a second reason, that I wanted to be able to vote, I also chose to run for office. And now I am on your November 5th ballot, whether you're voting early by absentee ballot or you're going to be voting on election day. You'll see my name right there, House District 20. I'm the Democratic nominee, and my name is Mitchell Jacob. Thank you so much for being here this evening. So that was an introduction of myself and a little bit about who I am. One thing I want to stress really quickly, my friends, November 5th That is a Tuesday. That is the election. I hope that you have created a voting plan. Will you be voting by absentee ballot? If so, you're going to need to most likely, well, here in the state of Oklahoma, absentee ballot, you have to notarize that. So make sure you know where you're going to get that notarized. Make sure you know when the deadline is for that absentee ballot to be received so that you can have your voice be heard. And if you're going to be going to vote in person at the polls, then I strongly recommend that you create a plan. Will you be going before work or after? Will you be going with a friend or by yourself? And everyone who's going together needs to be aware of that plan so that you can all make sure you get there because something always happens. And I want to make sure that your vote counts on November 5th. Well, my friends, thanks for joining me this evening. So let's just get started, shall we? So, the first issue of the evening, didn't think we'd have to talk about this here in 2024. But my stance on corporal punishment, let me be very clear, and I just posted this about 30 minutes ago. I do not support corporal punishment in Oklahoma's public schools. I will never support having a paddle hanging from the front of any classroom to create a spirit of intimidation in an Oklahoma public school. And I truly believe that corporal punishment, that type of discipline, belongs only to the parents. There are many other ways to discipline a non or misbehaving child in public school, and that does not need to include hitting that child. So let me say it again very, very clearly. My name is Mitchell Jacob, the Democratic nominee for Oklahoma's House District 20, and I do not support corporal punishment in Oklahoma's public schools. My friends, in 2023, for those of you who are not familiar with it, the Oklahoma legislature passed the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act. Now, it is neither truly a tax credit and it is not truly about parental choice, but that is irrelevant to this conversation. At its core, the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act is an appropriations bill that appropriates $250 million per year of taxpayer money. That's right, $250 million annually, and sends it to private schools. Greater than a third of the funds from the previous academic year went to pay for private school tuitions where the family had a household income of $150,000 or greater. And between you and me, I do not think that a household making $150,000 or more should be getting a check to pay for their child's private school tuition while we continue to starve public schools of what I believe are two fundamentally and critically important aspects of public school education. So, since the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act already appropriates that money, and I believe that it is simply misallocated, let's amend the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act. And this is what I want to do. Let's fund the following two expenses instead of any more private school tuitions in the state of Oklahoma. First, let's pay for free lunch and free breakfast for every single public school child every single school day. And second, let's create a new tax credit for Oklahoma's public school teachers who are purchasing supplies for the classroom out of their own pocket so that they can be reimbursed for their investment in our greatest asset in Oklahoma, for children. I believe that using the parental choice tax credits $250 million to pay for lunch and breakfast for 700,000 public school children will have a much greater impact upon the state of education in Oklahoma than simply paying for 30,000 private school tuitions with those same tax dollars. Let us invest in public schools. Let us invest in the greatest benefit for Oklahoma's children, increase educational outcomes. And when you really think about it, would you want to go to school if you don't know where your next meal is coming from? And would you be able to learn in algebra or trigonometry or learn Shakespeare or pay attention in a class you hate when you're hungry? Because I know that I would not be able to do that. I am one of 9 children and I know what it means to grow up in a tight spot. And my mother, I love her to death, and she did wonders with the situation we found ourselves in. But I know that if Oklahoma had been paying for free lunch and free breakfast when I was a child, uh, my family's financial situation would have been significantly improved by that simple act of truly taking care of the public school children in Oklahoma. So that is my plan with the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act when you elect me, Mitchell Jacob, to represent House District 20 at the Oklahoma Capitol. Additionally, as many of you are probably aware, we have a state superintendent of public education whose name is Ryan Walters, who loves to do things that are of questionable value. One of the many things that he likes to do is withhold funds from Oklahoma's public school districts, funds that are legally appropriated by the legislature and funds that have an intended and specific use in Oklahoma's public schools. So when you elect me to represent Oklahoma's House District 20, I will be introducing legislation that restricts the ability of the state superintendent of education or the Oklahoma Department of Education from withholding funds from a school district unless two things happen first. First, the Department of Education will need to prove that the district in question is either misspending funds, violating the law, or violating some sort of regulation. And second, that withholding of the funds that were lawfully appropriated by the legislature, that needs to be submitted back to the legislature. And with a yes vote on that, then the state of Oklahoma will withhold the funds from that district and ensure compliance. And not a single individual will have that power anymore, acting on whatever reason they choose to act. Let's create government accountability and let's let the will of the people be done and stop letting self important elected officials get in the way of that. It's time to do the work, House District 20. And my name is Mitchell Jacob, your Democratic nominee, and I am willing to do that work. If you'll take a chance on me this November 5th and elect me to represent you at the Oklahoma Capitol. Here in House District 20, my second priority when you elect me to represent you is infrastructure. That means a few things to me, but one thing that it means that applies to the entire district is water. It is 2024 and we live in these United States, the greatest country on earth. And yet we're having issues with basic necessities like clean drinking water in certain parts of Oklahoma. There are 5 cities that I know of out of only 7 in House District 20 that are on either water rationing or water restriction. And while the reason these cities like Blanchard, Newcastle, Washington, Goldsby, and Noble, while the reason they might be on a water restriction or water rationing might be different, the end result is the same. We simply do not have enough clean drinking water here in House District 20. And for those of you who live in House District 20, which I hope is all of you, you know that we are experiencing the fastest rate of growth in the state of Oklahoma. We are rapidly expanding from Newcastle to Blanchard to Noble. Every time I drive through this district, I see new subdivisions being built, new neighborhoods going in, new driveway connections being opened, and we are rapidly expanding. And we have water shortages today. So what I want to do when you elect me to represent House District 20 is go be an advocate at the Capitol, at the Oklahoma Water Resources Board. That is the state agency in charge of drinking water, among other things, here in the state of Oklahoma. And I want to help create a comprehensive use plan to see if we can create a solution, not only to today's shortage of water here in House District 20, but with the rate of growth we're experiencing, we need to plan for water for the next 5, 10, and 25 years. Now, I will be honest, I don't know if that means drilling more water wells, if it means creating a reservoir system. I don't have the answers. But what I'm willing to do is put in the work, commence a study, consult with experts, consult with each of these municipalities, and create a plan that will bring us water today and prepare us for future growth that is already occurring throughout this district. We cannot bury our head in the sand. We must anticipate, welcome, expect, and plan for the growth that is happening today and for the foreseeable future right here in House District 20. For those of you who live in Blanchard or Newcastle, an additional infrastructure item that I feel very passionately about, and you'll know what I'm talking about when I say it, is our bridges. How often do you drive through Newcastle, or there's one in Blanchard, and you come up to those little narrow bridges and you begin to fervently pray that it is a motorcycle that's coming across the other way and not a semi? I have to drive through these all the time, and I have two teenage drivers in the house, and I still stress when they leave because I hope that they do not have to cross those bridges. It's time to replace those bridges. It's time to let our infrastructure expand and accommodate a rapidly growing population here in Newcastle and in House District 20. Another topic that I am a champion for is I'm a champion for veterans. And I want to create Oklahoma's version of the Hazelwood Act. For those who are not familiar with it, the Hazelwood Act comes out of Texas, and it is a state incentive that says that Texas residents who join the military and then come back to the state of Texas can have for themselves, the veteran themselves, their spouse, and their dependent children can each get a credit in a Texas public institution of higher learning, so a public university in Texas, and they can get a degree. Up to 150 credit hours is applied for that individual toward their first degree there in Texas. And I believe that we should adopt the same program here in Oklahoma. Let's embrace our veterans. Let's create a better path forward for them, for their spouses, for their children. Let us create more productive citizens in the state of Oklahoma. Let's create more skilled wage earners and skilled laborers and skilled workers in the state of Oklahoma. Let's increase earnings and increase the amount of tax revenue that we will be collecting here in this state. I am an advocate for an Oklahoma version of the Hazelwood Act that Texas uses to allow veterans, their spouses, and their dependent children to receive a free college degree. Another topic I wanted to discuss is the summer food program. So, for those of you who are aware, Governor Stitt signed for the second year in a row an executive order rejecting $60 million in federal money for public school children to receive $40 per month in an EBT style program where their families can purchase groceries each month. That was $60 million of taxes that Oklahoma citizens have already sent to the federal government. And Governor Stitt, instead of accepting that money, instead of helping children get food this coming summer, rejected that money. That is tax money that Oklahomans have already paid, that the federal government is attempting to send back to the state, that our governor has rejected for the second year in a row. I am running on a platform that we must do more for Oklahoma's children. We must be providing them with free lunch and breakfast every single school day instead of paying for private school tuitions. We should be bringing back Oklahoma's federal tax dollars to pay for these EBT style programs to allow families with public school children to just have a little break. Oklahoma did not have to commit any funds to the program. Oklahoma did not have to commit any funds to the program. The federal government was attempting to send us $60 million to help pay for groceries for the families of public school students throughout the summer months. And we have just said no to helping the children here in the state of Oklahoma. And I think that it is unconscionable. Why do we treat families so poorly? Why do we not want to accept our own tax dollars back, provide food to families who need it in the summer without Oklahoma having to commit any funds. I do not understand it. I do not support it. And I believe that we should be accepting these federal dollars back into the state of Oklahoma, back into the groceries that public school students and their families purchase throughout the summer months. My friend, something that I'm absolutely proud of Oklahoma for. Did you know that in 2022, 44%, that's right, 44% of Oklahoma's total electricity consumption came from wind energy? And if you add in other sources of renewables, such as what is that called? Rooftop solar and hydroelectric, approximately 50% of Oklahoma's total electricity consumption in the year 2020 came from a renewable source. I am so proud of our state, and that is without a renewable portfolio standard. That is without any government mandate that we must diversify our energy and electricity grid. Oklahoma is a model for green energy in the United States, and I believe that we should be touting that across the United States. We should be telling other states that they should adopt our model of producing more renewable energy, of increasing their renewable portfolio. Because let me say it again for those who are just joining, I see you coming in, and welcome. In 2022, 44% of Oklahoma's total electricity consumption came from wind energy. And if you add in other renewables such as rooftop solar and hydroelectric, approximately 50%, half of our total electricity consumption in Oklahoma in 2022 came from a renewable source. I'm so proud of this state. We did not have to have the government even get involved to make that happen. And I believe that we are a model for the rest of the United States in how we diversified our electricity grid and how we've relied upon renewable sources. And for those of you who didn't know, we have thousands of solar projects that are slated to come online in the next 5 years. Expect gigawatts of solar energy in addition to the myriad of wind turbines that we're already continuing to install. And Oklahoma's green energy grid is about to get so much greener. And I'm proud of this state, and I'm proud of our diversity, and I'm proud of our diversification of our electrical grid. So I see that we've had quite a few people join, and I'd like to just do a really quick introduction and then work back through some issues really quickly. So my name is Mitchell Jacob. I am the Democratic nominee for Oklahoma's House District 20. I personally live in Newcastle, but anyone who lives in Newcastle, Blanchard, Cole, Goldsby, Washington, Noble, or Slaughterville, I am on your November 5th ballot. Whether you're voting absentee, early, or at the polls on election day, I hope that you'll take a chance on me, Mitchell Jacob, to be your next representative at the Oklahoma Capitol. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about why I'm even remotely qualified to represent you. I am an Oklahoma native, and I'm a fourth generation Oklahoma native. I had the opportunity to attend Union Public Schools. I'm one of 9 children, and I truly do know what it's like to be in a tight spot, to wonder how the rent's going to be paid and whether or not that car will be repossessed. Like so many people, I started my career in a restaurant. I truly started at Subway as a sandwich artist, but from there, I became a dishwasher and a busboy, and worked and a bar back, and worked across an array of restaurants. But after that, I got a job as a mortgage loan originator, then as a banker, and then as a stockbroker, a Series 763 registered representative. But one day I woke up and realized that if I was going to make good on a promise to serve my country, then I was running out of time. I was 25 years old, and so I quit and I gave it all up, and I became a private in the United States Army, where I was a 35 Papa, a cryptologic linguist, and I'm fluent in modern standard Arabic as well as English, and I have working proficiency in French. And I could survive in Mexico, on Spanish, so in a Spanish speaking country, if I truly had to, but it wouldn't be pretty, let me tell you that. When I transitioned off of active duty status and moved to Newcastle in 2022, OU Law made the mistake of accepting me into their law program. And so in May of 2025, this coming May, I will graduate with my fourth college degree, my Juris Doctor, my law degree, from the University of Oklahoma College of Law. I love this state. I love the opportunities that are present here. We must improve our public schools, but there are other aspects that I'm incredibly proud of. For example, our vocational technical programs are fantastic. I have two sons currently enrolled in VOTEC here in Oklahoma, one for automotive and one for welding. And the welding program, all in, for a 2-year program, including supplies and books, is only $4,000. That is such an affordable price and a great price for those who are trying to get a professional degree, get a new career, and do something with their lives. And I love our vocational schools. I love going to OU Boomer Sooner, and I am so incredibly proud of the opportunity to attend the preeminent university here in Oklahoma. But why did I choose to run? That is the question, I suppose. My wife and I, we have 5 kids. Somehow, some way, they're all boys, and they go to public school. I am tired of sitting around the kitchen table complaining about the state of public school education in Oklahoma. We are ranked 49th out of 50 in Oklahoma, and we can do so much better. When I graduated high school in 2010, Oklahoma was ranked 17th in the nation in public education. We have fallen 32 spots in only 14 years. And my friends, we can do so much better than that. We must fix the public schools in Oklahoma. And for those who say that they are terrible and they suck, or whatever it is that I'm told on a very regular basis, let me say it this way. You don't abandon a public school simply because it's not doing well. We must be willing to put in the work. We must be willing to do what is necessary to reverse that reality that we continue to drop in rankings. And it is not a time to abandon public schools. It is a time to band together and improve the quality and educational outcomes here in the state. I want to say this: if you are a teacher, thank you so much for what you do. I am proud every day that you choose to go and teach in schools where you are vilified, where people like to use you as a scapegoat, where you're not paid enough for what you deal with. So thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I am an advocate for Oklahoma's public schools, for you, and for the work that you do. And it is time to continue to investing uh, into Oklahoma's public schools. And there are a few ways that we can do it. But first, a topic that has come up recently, and I want to very clearly establish my stance. I do not support corporal punishment in Oklahoma's public schools. I will never, ever support a wooden paddle hanging in the front of a classroom as a tool of intimidation. And I believe that that type of discipline only belongs to the parents, and that there are other ways to deal with a misbehaving child. We do not and should not ever be hitting them. But beyond that, in 2023, we passed the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act. That is an appropriation of $250 million per year. That's right, $250 million annually that we are taking from the general revenue of the state of Oklahoma and giving away to private schools. We should stop doing that, to say the least. And I want to introduce legislation that amends the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act and reallocates those funds away from private schools and into two expenses that I think are integral and fundamental to public education in the year 2024 and beyond. First, we should be paying for free lunch and free breakfast for each and every one of Oklahoma's public school children every school day. There are 700,000 public school children in Oklahoma, and these funds will more than cover that expense. And additionally, I want to create a new tax credit for Oklahoma's public school teachers who are purchasing supplies for their classroom out of pocket. I do not believe that they should be saddled with the expense of investing in our most valuable resource, and that is our public school children. I'm going to take a quick look at some of the questions that are coming in. Bear with me one moment. So, one thing I want to remind you of really quickly is that Election Day this year is November 5th. And if you live in the state of Oklahoma, which, if you're on this, I hope you do, you can already request your absentee ballot, and voting in a lot of respects has already begun. Oklahoma Voter Portal, the top option is to request an absentee ballot. And remember, if you're voting by absentee ballot, please, 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 you have to get it notarized. You cannot simply fill it out and mail it back in. It must be filled out and then signed and notarized before it can be accepted. If you are early voting or otherwise voting in person on election day, I hope that you have created your voting plan. A reminder, election day this year is November 5th. It is in 19 days. Are you going to go before work or after? Will you be going with a friend or by yourself? Everyone who will be going with you needs to be aware of the plan so that you can each make sure that your voice and your vote count this election cycle. A couple of other topics that I wanted to address with you tonight are the state superintendent of public education in Oklahoma. His name is Ryan Walters. And I have other videos that I've posted. So let me say a few things about my stance on Ryan Walters. The Oklahoma Constitution is very clear. The Department of Education and the state superintendent of public education do not have the authority to dictate to a local school board how they will teach, what curriculum they will teach, and from what they will teach in that classroom. So these mandates that teachers will teach from the Bible, not only are they unconstitutional under the First Amendment and the separation of church and state, under Article 2 of the Oklahoma Constitution, but they're also not within the wheelhouse of the state superintendent of public education or the Department of Education. They do not have the authority to dictate to any teacher in this state what they will teach, how they will teach it, or from what they will teach it. It is very clear in the Oklahoma Constitution that only your local elected school board has the right to dictate what will be taught in that classroom. And I agree with that. I believe in a smaller government. I am a conservative, and I believe that we should not be expanding the role of the capital uh, in the classroom. And I believe that you can vote on a school board at your local level and for your district that knows what your community needs, to know what your children need to learn best, what it is that they should be learning, and how to make that happen. You do not need a heavy hand raining down from the state capitol and the Department of Education requiring, no, mandating, dictating to teachers and to these elected local school boards what their district needs. I do not support the way that he has gone about this. I do support the recently commenced investigations by the Legislative Office of Fiscal Transparency, the House of Representatives, and the multi-county grand jury into Ryan Walters and his handling of funds from the federal government, from pandemic relief, and other pots of money that have been mismanaged. When you elect me to represent House District 20, I also have another way that I believe we should be restricting the state superintendent of public education. And really quickly, I'd like to say this for those of you who wonder how we got into a situation where someone like Ryan Walters can act the way he acts, be who he is, and do the things he's doing. I have a little bit of unfortunate history or reality to share. So far as I'm aware, Oklahoma is the only state in the union that chose to make the state superintendent of public education, the head of the Department of Education, an elected official. Typically, in most places, the administrative head of an administrative agency is an appointed bureaucrat, an appointed employee. But for whatever reason in Oklahoma, we chose to make them an elected official despite it being an administrative agency. Typically, you do not need to define the outer boundaries of what an agency head can do because they're limited by their mandate. And if they fail to abide by that, then you simply remove that appointed head and replace them. But when you couple the fact that it's an administrative agency with the fact that you have an elected official, you have competing interests that suddenly occur. The Constitution mandates that the only way to remove Ryan Walters is through impeachment or a vote of the people, obviously, but that won't happen for 2 years, is through impeachment, which means that instead of simply removing him like you would normally be able to do for a non compliant agency head, we must instead constantly erect barriers limiting the scope of their authority. This is not the traditional way that this happens in the United States, but in Oklahoma, this is the system that we have created and the system that we currently have. So instead of being able to say, you're out of here, Ryan Walters, bring in the next one, we either have to impeach or reelect a new person in 2026. So, what we can do in the meantime is I will be introducing legislation when you vote on Mitchell Jacob to represent you, House District 20, and it will say Department of Education. If you want to withhold funds from another district in Oklahoma, then there are two things that need to happen before you can withhold that money. And in this case, we're talking about lawfully appropriated funds. For example, the inhaler money, the general budget of these districts. There are lots of things that Ryan Walters likes to withhold from these districts. And my legislation will say this: if you want to withhold that money, then two things need to happen. One, you must prove that that district is either violating the law, misspending funds, violating some sort of regulation, whatever it may be that they're doing wrong. And second, since it was a vote of the legislature that appropriated that money, then it will be a vote of the legislature that will withhold that money. No longer will we allow a single individual acting for whatever political reason they choose to be the one to unilaterally withhold funds from another school district. And I need your help to make that happen. If you believe that the withholding of lawfully appropriated funds from a school district in Oklahoma is a disservice to educational outcomes here in Oklahoma, then I need your help. I am on the November 5th ballot for the Oklahoma House District 20, and I want to restrict the authority of the state superintendent of education from withholding lawfully appropriated funds from local school districts. Something that Oklahoma does incredibly well is our vocational technical programs. I have two sons in them, one in automotive and one doing a welding program. But I want to take these programs one step further. Oklahoma is one of the only states in the union where local municipalities, in this case, we're talking about cities, Newcastle, Blanchard, Noble, etc., they only receive, yes, I suppose that's cut off. Yes, I'm a Democrat. It's right there. My head is covering it. But the only way that cities receive any funding is through sales tax. Whenever we drive into Oklahoma City, for example, or Tulsa or a surrounding metropolitan area to spend our money, go grocery shopping, do entertainment, we are leaving tax dollars. We're taking away tax dollars that could be going to our local city. But I want to line main streets across Oklahoma with small businesses, and I have an incentive that will do just that. If you have ever wanted to start a small business in Oklahoma, then I have a new tax proposal, a new tax incentive, excuse me, that I'll be introducing when you vote Mitchell Jacob to elect House District 20. I will be creating legislation that says that new corporations started by an Oklahoma resident will have 5 years or until they reach $500,000 in annual gross revenue without paying any state taxes. I want to get these businesses established. I want them to be able to get inventory and customers, hire employees, get insurance, and become viable. And then we'll worry about taxing them after they're established and doing well. But we will no longer threaten their viability from day one. Let me repeat that tax incentive. There are a lot of people joining suddenly. I want to create a new tax incentive right here in the great state of Oklahoma, where any new business started by an Oklahoma resident will have 5 years or until they reach $500,000 in annual gross revenue without paying any state taxes. I want to get main streets across Oklahoma lined with new small businesses. I want to give you new places to go to spend your funds and encourage more people to take their future and their economic lives into their own hands and start a new business in Oklahoma. I also have an incentive, a proposal is what I meant to say, on my website, and I'd be happy to share it with anyone who wants it. It's very dry, long, and 7 pages, but I believe that we can also be bringing more corporations to the state of Oklahoma without offering them tax breaks, because I believe that tax breaks belong to the people, not to corporations. In short, what I believe is that companies like Devon and Sonic that have their headquarters in Oklahoma City should also be incorporated in the state of Oklahoma. And we can do that by amending the Oklahoma General Corporations Act, by establishing our own courts of chancery, by creating a new business law committee in the legislatures of Oklahoma to analyze and review corporate developments every single year and propose legislative amendments to the corporate code to ensure that we can become highly competitive in the United States. We should be the preferred state of incorporation for any oil and gas company, for any fleet logistics company, for any transportation company, among others that I can think of. We are geographically in the center of the country. We are very mineral and resource rich. We have a confluence of state highways and interstates that allow you to get basically anywhere in the United States from Oklahoma. And we should have more businesses that want to call Oklahoma not only home, because we have those, but we need more businesses that want Oklahoma to be their state of incorporation. And we can make that happen. I would love to share that with you. Just reach out to me. My cell phone number, I'm going to say it in 1 second. I'll give you a second to get a piece of paper and begin to write it down. But my cell phone number, for those who want to reach out to me, it's 405-407-6975. That was 405-407-6975. Call me or text me. Let me know how I can serve you, how I can represent House District 20. And if you would like, I can send you any of my super boring and very long proposals on how I believe that we can change some of our laws and become more competitive, more modern, and bring more corporations and more business and more jobs and economic growth to the great state of Oklahoma. But in order to support the businesses that we will be bringing to Oklahoma, we must do better on public education. I am the Democratic nominee for Oklahoma's House District 20, and my name is Mitchell Jacob. Excuse me, I thought I was plugged in, but it turns out I'm not, so bear with me 1 second. There we go. So yes, my name is Mitchell Jacob, and I'm the Democratic nominee for Oklahoma's House District 20. I will be on the November 5th ballot for anyone who lives in HD20, and that is Newcastle, Blanchard, Cole, Goldsby, Washington, Noble, and Slaughterville. And I am the Democratic nominee. But one thing you should know, I am an Oklahoma native. I'm a fourth generation Oklahoman. And I used to be a registered Republican. If that upsets you, I totally understand. But I am a conservative person. I believe in smaller government. I believe in fiscal responsibility. And I believe that we must ensure that we do not finance general obligations with debt. No government should take on any debt unless that debt can pay for itself. Whether or not that helps you, I do not know. But I truly believe that government and long-term debt for general obligations should never, and I mean should never, mix. But we must invest in our public education in order to support those businesses that I want to bring to Oklahoma. And how can we do that? Well, for those of you who already know, the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act was passed last year in 2023. And it appropriates $250 million of our taxpayer dollars. And it gives it away to private schools. In fact, more than 35% of the households last academic year who received funds from the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act had a household income of $150,000 or greater. And between you and me, I do not believe that those households need your tax dollars to pay for their children's private school tuition. And I want to amend the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act and pay for two things instead of more private school tuition. Excuse me. First, I want to reallocate those funds to cover free lunch and free breakfast for every single public school child every single school day. When a child is fed, they can actually learn algebra or Shakespeare or their multiplication table. They can actually focus on grammar and things that are very difficult to do when you're hungry. And further, a child who knows that their next meal will be coming from school is so much more likely to go to school, to do better, to pay attention, to learn, to improve their test scores. So I believe that we should be reallocating those parental choice tax credit dollars into free lunch and free breakfast for Oklahoma's public school children. We should be benefiting each and every one of our 700,000 public school children every day, and not just 30,000 private school tuitions. Additionally, I want to create a new tax credit for Oklahoma's public school teachers who are paying for school supplies out of their own pocket. I want them to be able to be reimbursed for their investment in our most valuable resource, our children. I think that they should be getting up to $250 per year per teacher. Let's invest in the children. Let's stop wasting our tax dollars on private school tuitions. And let's make a difference in the educational outcomes that Oklahoma's children are experiencing every single day. My name is Mitchell Jacob, and I am the Democratic nominee for Oklahoma's House District 20. I am on your November 5th ballot, and my cell phone number is 405 407 6975. And I truly hope you will give me a call or shoot me a text and let me know how I can best represent you and best represent this district at the capital of Oklahoma. So, my friends, there have been quite a few things. Let me take a quick look. Bear with me. Yes, that's good. So, for those who are just joining, excuse me, one thing that I'm incredibly proud of in Oklahoma, in fact, not just proud, Oklahoma is a leader in the United States in renewable energy. Did you know that in 2022, 44% of Oklahoma's total electrical consumption came from wind energy? And if you add rooftop solar, hydroelectric, and other renewable resources to that mix, approximately 50%, half of Oklahoma's total electrical consumption came from a renewable source. And we have thousands, thousands of solar projects that are slated to be connected to the Southwest Power Pool. We have more wind turbines that are coming online every single day. Hydroelectric is pretty much complete in Oklahoma. There are some spots, and as we improve the technology, we might be able to squeeze more out of it. But generally speaking, it is hydroelectric is pretty much plateaued in Oklahoma. But we are increasing our wind output, and we are bringing on many solar projects here in Oklahoma. So for those who didn't catch it, Oklahoma is a leader in electrical, renewable electricity in the United States. 44% of our total wind production in 2022 came from wind energy. And if you add other renewables, half of our total electrical consumption came from renewable resources. And I believe that the rest of the United States should be following Oklahoma's electrical diversification, investing in more renewables, and continuing to do better in what they're putting into the grid and putting into the atmosphere. But in order to continue to support those businesses that want to support a better economy, to come to Oklahoma and to create more green energy, for example, we must improve Oklahoma's public schools. The Parental Choice Tax Credit Act takes 250 million of your taxpayer dollars and gives it away to private schools. We can do so much better. For the same amount of money, we can provide free lunch and free breakfast to each and every one of Oklahoma's public school children, all 700,000 of them, instead of just 30,000 private school tuitions every school day. And when you elect me to represent Oklahoma's House District 20, I will be introducing legislation to amend the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act to stop giving away money to private schools and to invest back in Oklahoma's public schools, into her public school children, into ensuring that we take care of them. And in fact, for those of you who don't know, Governor Stitt recently signed for the second year in a row an executive order rejecting $60 million in funding from the federal government. That was the federal government offering Oklahoma back her own tax dollars, and he rejected it via executive order, saying we do not have hungry children. We do not need that $60 million to pay for groceries and lunch and food for these families over the summer. And I think that is unconscionable. We have many food insecure families in this state, and I was one of them. I am one of 9 children born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, as a fourth generation Oklahoman, and I know what a difference it would have made, not just for me, but for my entire family, if we had had free lunch and free breakfast for every public school child in this state every school day. And when you elect me to represent Oklahoma's House District 20, I will fight. I promise you, I will fight to improve the public school education that your children and mine receive. Lots of comments, forgive me. They're coming very quickly, and just try and follow them. So, my friends, my name is Mitchell Jacob, and I'm the Democratic nominee for Oklahoma's House District 20. I'm going to read my number off in just one moment. So, if you'd like to write that down so you can call me or text me, get ready, and I'll read that in just a moment. But I will be on your November 5th ballot. I will be on your absentee ballot if you vote that way. And I hope that you've made a plan for how you will be voting on November 5th. Will you be getting there before work or after? Will you be going with a friend or by yourself? The only way your voice matters and your vote counts is if you actually cast it. And I hope that you've looked up where your local precinct is. If you haven't, Oklahoma Voter Portal, it will show you the exact address and name of the precinct voting location where you will go to vote on November 5th, or if you choose to early vote, for example, House District 20, we vote in Purcell if you early vote. Excuse me, which this year will be that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday the week prior. I don't have a calendar in front of me, forgive me. But whatever that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday is right before the election, you'll be able to early vote in Purcell, vote at your local precinct polling place on election day. Go to the Oklahoma Voter Portal to find it, or you can go on the Oklahoma Voter Portal and request an absentee ballot. If you do that, my friends, please remember your absentee ballot must be notarized. Let me say that again. Your absentee ballot must be notarized. Please make sure your voice counts and your vote is counted, and notarize that ballot. So, my phone number, for those who are ready, my cell phone number is 405 407 6975. That was 405-407-6975. You can call me, you can text me, and you can let me know what I can do to best represent you and House District 20 from the Oklahoma Capitol when you take a chance and vote on Mitchell Jacob on November 5th. I'm so incredibly thankful to have the opportunity to stand in front of you today as one of your 2 options for November 5th. I have loved this experience of getting to learn more about this district, to meet thousands upon thousands of people. I've had a chance to knock approximately 2,000 doors. We've made thousands upon thousands of phone calls. And I've had a chance to go to many town halls, many in-person events, go to debates, and I've been so thankful for the response, for you believing in me, being willing to take a chance on me. And I'm so thankful that I get to be here in front of you so that I can be a voice for you, for House District 20, and a representative at the Oklahoma Capitol for Oklahoma's House District 20. A couple of things I want to go through really quickly, and then we'll be closing out this final town hall for the evening. Actually, that's not true. If you have a specific question that you would like me to answer, drop it in the chat right now. I'm going to check it in just a moment and try to address specific questions that you might have. Excuse me. So, a couple of things that I just want to go through really quickly. One, I do not support corporal punishment in Oklahoma's public schools. I will never support a paddle hanging in the front of a classroom as a weapon of intimidation for a public school child. And I believe that that type of discipline belongs exclusively to the parents, not to the government. As a proponent of smaller government, I will never support increasing the government's power to hit your child just because they choose to. The Parental Choice Tax Credit Act appropriates $250 million of Oklahoma's taxpayer dollars and sends it away to private school tuitions. We need to amend the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act. We need to use that $250 million to pay for free lunch and free breakfast for Oklahoma's public school children every single school day. And then also to create a new tax credit for public school teachers who are purchasing supplies out of their own pocket. Let's reimburse them for investing in Oklahoma's children, her most valuable resource. I'm doing a quick recap, but if you have a specific question you want to answer, as I see the number going up very rapidly, drop your questions in the chat right now. Let me know what issues you'd like to hear your candidate address, and I'll be getting to those here in just one moment. Another priority I have when you elect me to represent you at the Oklahoma Capitol is I'll be fighting in front of the Oklahoma Water Resources Board to address the critical shortage that we are experiencing in water right here in House District 20 today. We are the fastest growing district in the state of Oklahoma, and we already have issues with water today. That does not account for what will happen tomorrow in 5 years or 10 years. And somebody needs to start that work. So let me be your advocate at the Oklahoma Water Resources Board to come up with a comprehensive use plan for the entire district of House District 20. A quick question I see is, how long have I been in politics? This is my first time ever running. I chose to run because my wife and I have 5 kids. They're all boys. And I'm tired of complaining about public education around the kitchen table. And like any sane Oklahoman, I chose to run for office and fight for a better education for your children and mine. Another priority of mine is I want to line Main Street across Oklahoma with more small businesses. I have a tax incentive that I will be proposing when you take a chance and elect me. What I will be creating is a new tax credit that says that any Oklahoma resident who starts a new company in Oklahoma will have 5 years or until they reach $500,000 in annual gross revenue and not pay any state taxes. I want our small businesses to get established, hire employees, get inventory, get customers, advertise, and grow. And we will worry about taxing them when they become economically viable. And we will stop threatening their viability from day one. So, like I said, I believe in a new tax incentive for Oklahoma residents, creating new businesses that they can have 5 years or until they reach $500,000 in annual gross revenue. Quick question that was put in there. Yes, I have 5 kids. Somehow, some way, they're all boys, and they all attend public school, which is the primary reason that I chose to run. Additionally, I believe that Oklahoma should be adopting its own version of the Hazelwood Act. Excuse me. The Hazelwood Act, for those who are not familiar with it, is an incentive out of Texas that allows veterans, their spouses, and dependent children to get up to 150 credit hours at a public institution covered. Not private, so the state of Texas doesn't pay anything, and those individuals are still required to buy their books, pay for fees and costs and things like that, but the tuition itself is waived in the state of Texas, and I believe we should adopt that for our veterans and veteran families right here in Oklahoma. Additionally, for the second year in a row, Governor Stitt signed an executive order rejecting $60 million in federal funds that would have gone to pay $40 per month per public school child in the state of Oklahoma to help pay for groceries and food for those families. That was the federal government offering Oklahoma back her own tax dollars. And for the second year in a row, he signed an executive order rejecting now $120 million total. Oklahoma did not have to contribute funds to this program, and it was simply a rejection of your tax dollars, and they are now being dispersed to other states. I cannot support it, and I believe that we must be investing in our children. We must be investing in our public schools, and we must uh, be doing plenty more. Oh, I am reading your comments, but there are quite a few of them. So now it is the time for the comment section. So bear with me just one moment. I also believe that Oklahoma, just responding to a comment here, but my TikTok friends, TikTok thinks that I have gone away. Bear with me while I tell it that I'm real. How will I bring my district together? Well, 405-407-6975. That's my cell phone number. Whether you live in my district or not, you now have it, and you have the ability to text me, to call me, to let me know how I can best represent this district, how I can best represent Oklahoma. And yes, I am a Democrat right here. I'm the Democratic candidate for Oklahoma's House District 20. And I am on the November ballot for HD20, and I hope you'll take a chance on me. I have in May of here's a couple reasons I think that I believe I'm qualified to represent you at the Capitol. I've had the opportunity to work as a mortgage loan originator, a banker, and a stockbroker. I've served in the Army, and in May of 2025, this coming May, I will graduate with my fourth college degree, my Juris Doctor, or my law degree. I've spent a lot of time studying how the law works, how to write a bill, and how to introduce legislation, because I believe that every legislator should be writing the rough draft of the bills that they will be introducing. Now, I do not have enough hubris to believe I do not need help. Rather, that I should be writing the rough draft and the skeleton, and then requesting help on how to fill it out, how to ensure that it does what I believe it should do. And then I will be introducing my own bills. I have taken a lot of time to learn how government works, and I just believe in putting my skills, my education, my time, and my effort into helping my community. And so I'm going to be doing that, and that's why I'm on your November 5th ballot. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining this evening. I see plenty of comments, but I don't see any questions. So I wanted to say thank you so much for joining. It is time to amend the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act. It's time to stop spending money on private school tuitions and start paying for lunch and breakfast for Oklahoma's public school children. It's time to line Main Street with more small businesses. It's time to ensure that we improve educational outcomes in Oklahoma, because this is not the time to abandon public schools, but to put in the work and the effort to reverse the decline in the quality of education that Oklahoma is experiencing. And it is time to improve public education. And when you elect me to represent House District 20, I will put in the time and the effort to do just that. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Again, my name is Mitchell Jacob, the Democratic nominee for Oklahoma's House District 20. My cell phone number is 405-407-6975. And I hope that you'll give me a call or shoot me a text and let me know how I can best represent you. Bless you all. Have a great night, and I'll see you at the polls.